जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय श्री श्री राधा माधव की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, The Status Quo, Chapter 1, Questions by Vidura, verse number 30. Kashidhare saumya sutta sadriksha aste agraniratinam sadhu sambha asutayam jamvati vritadhaya devam guham yo ambikaya dritogre. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. O gentle one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth, he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva, and now he has been born in the womb of Jamvati, the most enriched wife of Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva, one of the three qualitative incarnations of the personality of Godhead, is the plenary expansion of the Lord. Kartikeya, born of him, is on the level of Pradyumna, another son of Krishna. When Lord Shri Krishna descends into the material world, all his plenary portions also appear with him to exhibit different functions of the Lord. But for the pastimes at Vrindavan, all functions are performed by the Lord's different plenary expansions. Vasudeva is a plenary expansion of Narayan. When the Lord appeared as Vasudeva before Devaki and Vasudeva, he appeared in his capacity as Narayan. Similarly, all the demigods of the heavenly kingdom appeared as associates of the Lord in the forms of Pradyumna, Sam, Uddhav, etc. It is learned here that Kamdev appeared as Pradyumna, Kartikeya as Samba, and one of the Vasus as Uddhava. All of them served in their different capacities in order to enrich the pastimes of Krishna. Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Thinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, verse number 30. Translation. O gentle one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva, and now he has been born in the womb of Jamvati, the most enriched wife of Krishna. Hare Krishna. So Vidura is continuing to inquire about the devotees in Dwarika, and now he is inquire about another son of Krishna known as Samba. Samba is son of Krishna and his wife Jamvanti. Jamvati is daughter of the great bear Jamvan, who assisted Lord Ramchandra in the fight against Ravan. And during an episode of stealing of Simantak money, Simantak jewel, Lord Krishna had a fight with Jamvan, and finally when Jamvan realized that he is not different than Ram, then he gifted his daughter who is beautiful Jamvati. And Jamvati and Krishna together produced many sons. The first eldest son was Samb. Amba means mother. Sa plus Amba is Samb. Samba. Sa means with. So Sam means with mother. This boy was so attached to his mother that he was named as Sam. He was also named as Jamvati Sutta. When Lord Shri Krishna appeared on this earth, many of the demigods also appeared to perform pastimes, to assist in his pastimes, to assist in his mission. So Lord Shiva's son Kartikeya, he appeared as Sam, as son of Lord Krishna. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva are three guna avatars. There are three gunas: goodness, passion, ignorance, satogun, rajogun, tamogun. Brahma is incarnation of passion, Vishnu is incarnation of mode of goodness, Lord Shiva is incarnation of mode of ignorance. So Lord Shiva, his son Kartikeya, came as Samba to assist in the pastimes of Krishna. And this Samba was as powerful as Krishna. His bodily feature was like Krishna, very beautiful, very attractive. He was a very brave warrior. So once Duryodhan's daughter Lakshmana, when she was ready for marriage, Duryodhan arranged a Swayamvar. Swayamvar. Var is husband. Swayam means herself. So Swayamvar means she would herself select her husband. Generally, it is not Vedic culture that girls go out and select a husband for themselves. It is best that the experienced well-wisher parents they select a boy as per the horoscope and their other investigation and they arrange the marriage. But very qualified girls in Vedic times would allow would be allowed to do Swayamvar where they can select their own husbands like Sita Devi, Draupadi and now Lakshmana. So when the Swayamvar was arranged, many princes came and Lakshmana what to choose among one of them. Krishna's son Samba, he came there and he didn't allow Lakshmana to choose any prince. He went and kidnapped Lakshmana. he touched Lakshmana and pulled her on his chariot and ran away, kidnapped. Lakshmana didn't express her desire to marry with Sam. She didn't show any positive inclination, but still he kidnapped. So Duryodhan became very angry, Dhritarashtra became angry, Karna became angry, all the other Kuru elders like Bhishma Pitama and others, Yagnaketu, Shala, Bhurishrava, they all became angry that how can this impudent boy take away our daughter? She has not expressed her inclination to marry this boy. She was in Swamvar where she can choose a boy for herself, a husband for herself. But this Samba came and he took away the girl. This is too much. And they decided that they will punish Samba. But then the discussion went that if they punish Samba, Krishna, Ugrasen, Balram, and the Yadu dynasty, they will become upset and they may take an army and attack Kuru dynasty. But all the elders of the Kuru thought that this Yadu Vansh is not so powerful. If they attack us, we can subdue them. Just like a yogi, by practicing yogic kriya, asan, pranayam, and etc., he can subdue his senses. In the same way, the party of Kuru Vansh, Kuru dynasty, thought they can easily subdue Yadu Vansh, Yadu dynasty if they attack us. So thinking like this, they discussed with the elders and decided that a small team of Maharathis be formed to go and attack Samba. So Bhishma Pitama, Karna, Duryodhan, Yagnaketu, Bhuri and Shal. These were the 6 Maharathis who formed a small army. They made Karna the commander in chief of the army, and Bhishma Pitama was the eldest, giving all the advices. And Bhishma Pitama said that we should arrest this boy Samba, but we should not kill. Since he has already touched Lakshmana, so now Lakshmana cannot be married to any other boy. We will have to marry Lakshmana with Samba, but we should also punish him for his impudence. Actually, they were quite happy that Samba was so powerful that he could do this. He could kidnap Lakshmana, and they knew Samba is qualified, being Krishna's son. But generally, at during those times, the bride and the bridegroom party, they will engage in a fight among themselves as a sport to increase the excitement in marriage. Just for example, if there is two families of wrestlers, all are wrestlers, and one boy, one girl from each family marry, there's a very high chance during the marriage ceremony or before that, they may engage in wrestling as a sport just to enjoy each other's company. But during the wrestling, they may try to defeat each other. In the same way, Kshatriyas would sometimes fight for a sport. So Bhishma Pitama said that marriage anyway has to take place because he has touched Lakshmana, so we should not kill the boy, we should just arrest him. If a boy touches a girl, that's considered that they should marry. Otherwise, no other boy will marry this girl. In Vedic times, girls and boys would stay separate. They would not mix. Not like co-education like today. I went in convent school, and in the convent school, in my class, there were boys as well as girls. And our class teacher had a fixed rule. The fixed rule was on one bench, there would be a bench where two children can sit together, not two different chairs and tables, one bench which has seat of two. So the class teacher made a rule, made a policy that in one bench, one boy and one girl will sit. Two boys or two girls not allowed. One boy and one girl. And from where a child In Vedic times, a boy would be taught to learn celibacy, brahmacharya in Gurukul. That's very important. Have a good character. Now, when you have co-education on one bench, one boy, one girl, from where you will learn brahmacharya? This is third class system of education. So girls are like fire, boys are like butter. In the contact with girl and boy, the boy will melt. The lust will be there. In scriptures it is said a male should not sit in private room closely even with mother, sister or daughter, because the body and mind are contaminated and lusty desires can come. So since Samba already touched Lakshmana during kidnapping, no other boy will marry Lakshmana. So Bhishma Pitama said we should just arrest Samba. Now this six army attacked Samba. Samba is a Maharathi. There are three broad categories of Kshatriyas: Rathi, Maharathi, Atirathi. Rathi means one who can fight with another one charioteer. Maharathi means one who can fight with other Maharathis, many Rathis, many Kshatriyas. And Atirathi means one who can fight with unlimited people. So Samba is Maharathi. So is Bhishma, Karna, Duryodhan, Shal, Yagnaketu and Bhuri. They also were six Maharathis. But six Maharathis attacking one Maharathi, that's very formidable. So they all sat in their chariot and attacked Samba. They ran behind Samba and Karna shouted to Samba that stand and fight, don't run. And when a Kshatriya is challenged to fight, he has to fight. He can't run away. A Kshatriya is more worried about his reputation, that nobody should call him a coward, than is worried about death. He would happily embrace death in a fight when challenged by a strong adversary, but he would not agree that I should run away and called a coward. That's the Kshatriya spirit. That's in mode of passion. And that's why they are supposed to be in military to protect the citizens. That is their duty. So when Samba was challenged by Karna, he didn't continue to move but stood there and faced the army of six Maharathis. And all six Maharathis started shooting arrows simultaneously and overwhelmed Samba. That was unrighteous. Generally, in a war, one Maharathi should fight with another Maharathi, and the other Maharathi should not come in between the fight, in the duel. But these six attacked together Samba. But Samba became very angry, and he was not afraid, and he was like Krishna in fight. So so rapidly, so fast, he shot arrows that with six arrows he pierced the six Maharathis one by one. Then with four arrows to each chariot he killed the four horses of each chariot. And with six more arrows he pierced the sarthi of each chariot. And all the army, Karna, Bhishma, Duryodhan, they were surprised and amazed. Even though they were fighting, but they said, yes, this boy is very qualified. He is very brave. And then they all together made a strategy. Four Maharathis took care of killing his four horses. One killed his Sarthi and another broke his bow. And then Samba was without chariot, without horses, without weapons. And they finally arrested Samba with great difficulty. And being victorious, they took the arrested boy back to their home. And they also took Lakshmana and separated them. Now this news went to Yaduvansh in Dwarka. It was carried by Narad Muni that six Maharathis of Kuru dynasty unrighteously, improperly arrested Samba, who was alone. So Krishna was very angry. Ugrasen was very angry, and Ugrasen Krishna decided that we will make our army ready and attack Kuruvansh, or attack the Kuru army. When Balram heard this, he didn't like it. He said it's not good to go on a war, that too between two big dynasties, Kuru dynasty and Yadu dynasty. Yes, Kuru dynasty people did wrong, Duryodhan did wrong, but maybe there is some solution without war. So he told Ugrasen that I will go as a messenger and see if we can deal it outside battlefield. If they agree to give Samba and Lakshmana back to us, then we can forgive them for improperly arresting Samba. So then Balram, Uddhav, and some more senior members of Yadu Vansh, they traveled to Hastinapur. Because Balram was coming as a messenger and not as a guest, so he didn't enter the city of Hastinapur. Outside the city there was some park, guest area, so he halted there, and then he told Uddhava that, my dear Uddhava, please go and speak to the Kuru elders and find out what is their intention, whether they want to go for a war or they want to make peaceful settlement. So Uddhava went, he offered his pranams to Bhishma Pitama, to Dhritarashtra, Duryodhan, Dronacharya, met everybody and informed that Lord Balram has come outside the city. Immediately Bhishma Pitama, Duryodhan and other elders of the Kuru Vansh, they came out with auspicious articles. They knew Balram is a great well-wisher of their family and is most powerful supreme personality of Godhead, and they came and offered him charity. They gave him cows, they offered him arti, they offered him chandan, they offered him flower garland, they offered him prasadam, and they glorified him, and they asked him how is everybody in Dwarka, and in return very peacefully Balram spoke to them sweetly and asked them how is everybody in Hastinapur. Then after the initial conversation, Balram said that today I have come here as a representative, as a messenger of King Ugrasen. King Ugrasen is a very powerful king, even the king of Indra. He is so powerful. So he has sent an order to you. Please listen it carefully and do the needful. King Ugrasen, Maharaj Ugrasen has said that even though the Kuru dynasty people have arrested Samba improperly by sending 6 Maharathis to attack him, but still, because we have good friendly relationships and we don't want to spoil the relationships, we don't want unnecessary battle and war, so he has ordered that you release Samba with Lakshmana and give it to us, and everything will be settled peacefully. When Duryodhan, Bhishma Pitama and all the Kuru elders heard this, they became very angry that how can Balram speak like this and give us orders? And they said, this Yaduvansh, what is their value? What is their position? They are allowed to eat with us, sleep with us, dine with us, and sit and laugh with us, not because they are in very great position, but because we have allowed it, as we have martial ties. Vasudev's sister Kunti from Yaduvansh. Vasudev is Krishna's father. So Kunti Devi was married to Pandu, who is brother of Dhritarashtra, son of Vichitra Virya, son of Vyasdev as such, but yeah, son of Vichitra Virya from Kuruvansh. So because Pandu and Kunti were married, so Kuruvansh and Yaduvansh, Kuru dynasty and Yadu dynasty, they became relatives, and because of that, the Kuruvansh allowed them equal status. So, so the elders of the Kuruvansh thinking that because of martial ties we allowed them equal status, but they are not equal to us. What a impudence that the shoe wants to sit on the head. Shoe's place is in the feet, and helmet's place is in the head. Shoe cannot sit on the head, but the Jaduans want to sit in the head. Since long they have used royal paraphernalia like white conch shell, white umbrella, white yak tail fan, white bedsteads, and royal paraphernalia, royal beds, etc. And we have ignored, we didn't said anything, thinking that it's okay. But now, because they are speaking in such orders, so much strength and cavalry, I think we should stop them using these royal insignias. They are so low level and they are trying to be higher level. This is not good. And saying all these nasty words, insulting words, saying that Jaduvansh is not qualified even to sit equally and use the royal paraphernalia. The Kuru elders left Balram outside Hastinapur and went inside the palace, inside the city, disagreeing to what order Balram has given on behalf of Ugrasen, Maharaj Ugrasen. Even though Balram very patiently heard when they were speaking, but as soon as they left, Balram showed very great anger. His eyes became red. He was ready to burn the whole world. He became so angry. And Lord Balram spoke that this Kuru dynasty thinks Maharaj Ugrasen is a small king. He is so powerful that we are using Parijat tree and Sudharma assembly. We forcibly brought it from Swarga. Indra couldn't do anything. King Ugrasen is king of all kings. And even Indra obeys him. And he thinks that Yaduvansh is very low. Yaduvansh is chappal, slipper at the feet, and they are helmet. Even if they think Ugrasen is not great, but what about Krishna? Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the master of all demigods. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva bow down to Krishna. The dust which emanates from Krishna's lotus feet is so powerful that it can award liberation. Even Lakshmi Devi bows down to Krishna. The water which emanates from Krishna's lotus feet is Ganges, and that Ganges flows and purifies the whole world. Is Krishna not qualified to use the white umbrella, white conch shell, yak tail fan, and royal insignias and royal beds? What kind of evil creature are these Kuruvans who are insulting Krishna like this? Even I, Balram, who carries all the universes on his head, is a servant of Krishna. And these people are insulting Krishna. Balram became very angry. Why he became angry? Because Krishna was insulted. Balram couldn't tolerate this. No devotee would tolerate if Krishna is insulted. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us to be humble and tolerant. So if we are personally insulted, we should be humble and tolerant. But if Krishna is insulted, Vaishnavas are insulted, we should not tolerate. We should give a fitting reply. When Nityananda Prabhu was preaching repeatedly to Jagai and Madhai, so Madhai at one point of time took a pot and hit on Nityananda Prabhu's forehead, and Nityananda Prabhu's forehead started bleeding. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to know, he became so angry, he came on the spot and he invoked his Sudarshan disc, Sudarshan Chakra, and he wanted to kill Madhai. But Nityananda Prabhu told him, please forgive him, don't kill him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tolerated personal insults, but he didn't tolerate it when Madhai hit Nityananda Prabhu. He was ready to kill Jagai Madhai. So tolerance is for personal, not for the Lord, not for the Vaishnavas, not for anybody obstructing the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the mission of preaching, anybody obstructing devotional service to Krishna. That is not to be tolerated. So Balram got very upset, he got very angry that this Kuru dynasty is so impudent, they are so evil, they are insulting whole Yaduvansh, they are insulting Krishna, who is the supreme personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the universes, who is master of Brahma, Shiva, Lakshmi. This Kuruvans, they bow down to Brahma, Shiva, and Brahma, Shiva bow down to Krishna, who is part of Yaduvansh. And still they think like this. These people will not listen through peaceful measures, they only listen through dandaniti, through punishment. There are some people who would not listen when we speak nicely, they will only listen through punishment. So today I will punish them fittingly. I will rid the whole earth of Kuruvansh. Saying this in anger, Balram took his plow, and his plow became so big that Balram made a hole on the ground in whole boundary of Hastinapur. Whole Hastinapur city, he made it separate from earth with his plow, and he dragged the city to put it in river Ganges. That is power of Lord Balram. When he becomes angry, he can display his strength in such a way. He was ready to uproot the whole city of Hastinapur and put it in Ganges. So as he was doing it, people thought earthquake has come, and the Kuru elders understood that Balram has been offended. So immediately they came out with folded hands. They kept Samba in front, Lakshmana behind Samba, and they were behind Lakshmana. And they folded hands, paid Dandvat Pranam to Balram, and he said, please take Samba and Lakshmana, and we misunderstood your powers. You are master, you are the supreme master, supreme enjoyer, supreme personality of Godhead. As Anand says, you take all the universes on your head, and you are very auspicious personality. You don't get angry. Your anger is transcendental, and today your anger is for our benefit, and we are your servants. Please forgive us. And they pacified Lord Balram, and they gave Samba and Lakshmana. And Duryodhan was so happy that he gave such a big dowry. He gave 1200 elephants which were 60-year-old. He gave 1,20,000 chariots. He gave 1,000 maid servants who were well decorated with golden ornaments. And he gave thousands of horses and so much jewelry and other things. A father gives dowry out of happiness. Dowry is not compulsory. Dowry should not be demanded, but according to the capacity of the father, he gives gifts to his uh, daughter and daughter's husband, newly wedded. That's out of love. So father should give as per his capacity, but the husband side should not ask. The boy side should never ask dowry. That's evil. And in the name of dowry today, there are too many evil things happening, burning the daughter for money and harassing her. That's not good. That's not the Vedic system. It's misrepresented. So the question comes that why all this happened? Why didn't Duryodhan and party, Bhishma and party accepted peaceful measures earlier? So Sukdev Goswami answers they just wanted to see what Balram will do. They just wanted Balram to exhibit his strength, and Balram exhibited. And then Balram very happily, he got pacified by their prayers. He took Samba and Lakshmana and went back to Dwarka and reported the whole incident to Ugrasen, Krishna and others. And they were very amazed that Balram was ready to uproot the whole city of Hastinapur. And even today, if we go in that area, one part is little low lying in front of the river, and often there are floods, which reminds the people that once upon a time Balram wanted to create a flood in the city, and the river there now it's called Yamuna. Sukdev Goswami writes that at that time, 5000 years before, that river was called Ganges. Now it is called Yamuna. Actually, Ganga and Yamuna are same two rivers, but because there are two forms flowing in two different directions, so these two names are there. But they are, Jiva Goswami says originally they are two rivers, one on one side, other when they are together they flow one on one side, other on another side, and they get separated. They are two different names, Ganga and Yamuna. So we see and we learn that sometimes a person may get puffed up because of his material opulence. We should not judge Krishna or Krishna's expansions. There is nothing right and wrong when it's question of Krishna or his expansions pastimes. Right and wrong is based on the law we follow in human society. When Krishna comes here, he is not part of the human society. So these laws are not applicable to him. Just like if a minister visits the jail, the laws of the jail are not applicable to the minister. And if the minister does an activity in the jail which is not allowed to the prisoners to do, so they may judge that he is breaking the rule. He is wrong. he should be punished. But that's not true because he is not under the rules of the prison. In the same way, when Krishna visits this place, he is not under the rules of this place. He is not under the laws. We should not judge him or his pastimes with our understanding of right and wrong. Whatever Krishna says and does, that's right, that's dharma. When in Mahabharat war, Dronacharya was to be killed, Krishna told Yudhishthira Maharaj to speak lies. Dronacharya will give up weapons when he hears that his son Ashwathama has died. So Krishna told Yudhishthira Maharaj that you tell Dronacharya that Ashwathama has died, then Dronacharya will believe you. But Yudhishthira Maharaj was reluctant, he was hesitant, he said, how can I speak lies? And at that time Yudhishthira Maharaj had a fall down in the sense, generally his chariot was above the ground, few millimeters, few centimeters above the ground because he was so pure. But as soon as he hesitated to follow the orders of Krishna, his chariot fell on the ground. Because he was a pious personality, his chariot would flow in the sky, float in the space, not flow in the sky, float in the space. So one may think that if I obey Krishna and I speak lies, that's wrong. But speaking lies or speaking truth, this dharma is made by Krishna. We speak truth because that is dharma. When Krishna tells us to speak lies, then that becomes dharma. So we should always follow dharma. That doesn't mean we have a license to speak lies. That's for Yudhishthira Maharaj in that context when it was required. And Krishna taught us that devotees eventually should be ready to do anything and everything for Krishna. So we should not judge devotees. It's not easy to understand devotees, what is going on in the mind of a pure devotee and why is doing a particular activity. A acharya or a spiritual master should not deviate from principles that will create chaos in the society. But still, when we are closely associating, we should understand. We should not become over familiar with them. So, because of material opulence, some people get proud. Good birth, good parentage, good bodily beauty, good wealth, good education. These are four material opulences by which a person becomes proud. And a person who depends on these four material opulences or other material opulences, his dependence on Krishna is very weak. His intensity of dependence is very low. And if our dependence on Krishna is weak, then we can't chant nicely, we can't practice nicely, we can't be humble, we can't be a good servant. So a devotee should know that he should depend on Krishna more rather than his material opulence. That's why earlier great sages, rishis, devotees would voluntarily practice poverty. They will not amass material opulence, they will remain poor. Even if they get some money or something, food, they will give away in charity. They will just consume what they require and rest they will give away depending on Krishna for the next day. Even Narad Muni told Mrigadhi that whatever food you receive, you just take for you and your wife. Don't collect extra. Every day you will be provided. So one should not be greedy. So that way one keeps dependence on Krishna. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, even if you collect lakhs of rupees in the morning, by evening you should spend all, zero balance, so that tomorrow again you are depending on Krishna for food and for maintenance. So that's the right attitude to increase our dependence on Krishna and not increase our dependence on material opulence. Of course, for brahmachari sannyasis, it does make sense to remain like that. A grahastha may have to collect and save some money for future expenses for family maintenance, etc. That's all right, provided the grahasthas also use their income in the service of Krishna. They give charity to the deities, to the sadhus, to the cows. They feed the Lord, they feed the devotees, they feed the cows. So one should fix part of his income every month or every week, whatever the case may be, and give charity to cows, sadhus, devotees, deities, Krishna. And in that way, one purifies his income, one expresses his dependence on Krishna, one expresses his surrender to Krishna, and pride will not touch him. Kuru once developed material opulence and proud so much that they challenged Balram and they made nasty remarks. That was not good, and they were punished. A lesson which they will remember whole life. So let's not wait for a lesson from Lord Shri Krishna to remember whole life. Let's learn the lesson by hearing classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, by learning from the spiritual master. If a person goes to school and learns proper lessons, then he gets educated in a very cheap way. But if he doesn't learn lesson in the school, then he has to go for coaching class, which is very costly, and learn a same lesson in a costly way. So if we learn lesson in Srimad Bhagavatam class, it's very cheap. In fact, our classes are free. You just need internet and YouTube and a device. That's free. Anyway you have it. Our classes are free. But if we don't learn in Bhagavatam classes, then Krishna will teach in a coaching class, which is the field of our work, field of our life. Some sukha dukha will come, some material experience will come, some bitter experience will come to teach the same lesson. And that's costly. Learning in coaching class is costly. Learning in a school is easy. So better we learn in our regular school. We learn by sitting in Bhagavatam class and not make Krishna teach us the same lesson in a coaching class, in a day-to-day field where the experience will be painful and we learn the same lesson. So it is essential that we hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the lips of a pure devotee. Just by hearing Bhagavatam transcendentally from the lips of a pure devotee, the message enters our ears. From our ears, it enters our heart and it transforms our life, it transforms our heart. It vanishes all the material desires and the anarthas. So one should be very submissively hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and serving the devotees of Sri Krishna. So we will end here. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If there are any questions, devotees are requested to send on the WhatsApp group, as I am not available on the chat window today to answer the questions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.